last month I decided I was going to try to do something a little bit different on this channel, and I'm continuing that. Last month I reviewed Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and I told you guys that each month I was going to be uploading one video where I talk about all of the Star Wars episodic films. I'm going to do that once a month, and I'm starting with The Phantom Menace, and I'm ending with The Rise of Skywalker. So we get 9 months on this channel where I get to talk all about Star Wars, so that's going to be a lot of fun because I love Star Wars. But if you haven't seen my review of The Phantom Menace, I would suggest going back and checking that out before you watch this one, because in this one, I'm only going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. It was written and directed by George Lucas. It stars Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, and Ewan McGregor. Before I get into the bad with this movie, because there's a lot of it, but before I get into the bad, I wanted to mention, and I'll talk a little bit about this later as well in the review, but the CGI in this one is a little bit better, I guess you could say. It still doesn't hold up very well in some scenes, and like I said, I'll get into that in a little while here later on in the review. But I do believe that they tried a little bit harder than they did in The Phantom Menace. I think they didn't just try harder, I think they were always trying hard, but I think maybe some technology kind of improved when they were making this movie. So I think the CGI is just slightly better. It's still not good, but it is slightly better than it was in the first one, because in the first one I don't think anything holds up as far as CGI goes. I do enjoy the lightsaber battle at the end of the movie with Yoda and Count Dooku. I just enjoy the fact that we get to see Yoda kind of, not really in his prime, but just kind of the time where he was still able to get around and fight a little bit. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. It's a very entertaining scene. It's a cool moment where you get to see Yoda leap over Count Dooku and fight him and just go crazy. And I've heard that some people don't really like this scene because it contradicts a little bit of some of the things that he tells Luke, what he tries to like mentor Luke in episode 5. And I can understand that, and it definitely does contradict some things that he's doing there. But I still feel like this is a really fun, entertaining scene to watch. And in a movie that is really boring, I think this scene is needed because it kind of regains my interest a little bit in what's going on, even though it's at the end of the movie. I also really love the scene where Anakin comes back to Tatooine to free his mother from being a slave. It actually is pretty heartbreaking when she dies, and then seeing Anakin with this really, like, he's just angry, this angry face, and then he gets back at these sand people. It's a really, really incredible scene to watch because it's kind of the first moment where we finally start to see Anakin has a little bit of dark side in him, and he's kind of succumbing to that dark side, and he's doing things that Jedi normally wouldn't do. It's a very incredible scene, and I have to tip my hat to that. Now we get into the meat of the movie, and that's the negative side of things that I have, and there's a lot more bad than good, I believe. The very first thing that I want to talk about is the relationship between Padme and Anakin. I think that's a given. If you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. Their whole relationship is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in my life. It's creepy. Anakin is very creepy in this. He gives off major Stranger Danger vibes in this. The way he speaks, the way he looks at her, anything that he does that involves Padme makes you feel uncomfortable and like he's going to harm her instead of actually pursue her and fall in love with her. A large part of the uncomfortableness in their relationship is the way that they speak, and mainly it's by Anakin. He delivers these really cheesy lines that just feel so unnatural.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
You can't tell me that when you watch a scene like that, or you watch their relationship blossom throughout this entire movie, that you feel comfortable with that. If you say you feel comfortable with that, that's a bold-faced lie, and I don't appreciate that at all, because you can't. I don't care who you are not you are not naturally feeling comfortable with the way that this relationship is presented. There's a lot of discussion in this movie about the age gap between Padme and Anakin, and I've always been a little unclear about that because I've always thought that this age gap is massive. But I wanted to clear some things up, so I googled what the age gap actually is, like canon for Star Wars in the prequels. And according to sci-fi.stackexchange.com, there's only a 5-year age gap. Apparently, in this movie, he's 19 and she's 24. And I always thought that for some reason, like, there was this really, really massive age gap. And I think that the reason why I thought that was because in the first movie, apparently Anakin in the first movie is 9 years old, and Natalie Portman's character, Padme, is 14. But Padme looks like she's going into her 20s, and Anakin looks like he's 6. And so it just it looks like there's a huge age gap there when really that's not it. And I don't know if I don't know who to blame on that. I don't know if that's George Lucas I should blame, or if I should blame the people in charge of casting. I don't know. It looks bad. It just looks like what's happening right here is very, very illegal. But apparently it is legal. And that makes me feel a little bit better about what's going on between them, but it still doesn't change how I view it, the relationship as a whole. I still feel very, very disturbed by it. We also get an example in this movie, and really in just the prequels in general, of what I think is some of the worst dialogue that has ever been written in a movie ever. I think when you're writing a screenplay, what writers try to use is what they call subtext. And subtext is where you have characters express how they feel or what they want to happen in a way where they don't say exactly and very clearly what they want to happen or how they feel. Because most people in real life talk through subtext. They don't most people normally don't say exactly what they want to happen or exactly how they're feeling. And in this movie, the characters do not do that. George Lucas wrote this movie, and really Star Wars just in general, the prequels and even some in the original trilogy, where you just get the sense where he doesn't feel comfortable letting the audience decide how a character is feeling based off of a facial expression or something like that. Instead, he just has characters say literally exactly how they're thinking and whatever they're feeling.
I killed them. I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them. And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them!
It really is just simply poor writing. There's no way around it. And I believe that this kind of writing kind of insults the audience's intelligence. And maybe I'm reading way too much into this, and I don't know if this is exactly how George Lucas thought or thinks when he writes. But it's almost just like he's telling the audience, I don't fully trust you to grasp how this character is feeling if I use subtext. So instead, I'm just going to have them say what they think or how they're feeling out loud. That way you can understand it. And because he does that, it just results in dialogue that will make your skin crawl. I want to get back to the CGI because I said at the beginning of my review that it's a little bit better than it was in the first one, but it still is really, really bad. I mean, one of my biggest issues with the CGI in this movie, and really the prequels in general, is that I feel like absolutely nothing is real. There's not one real alien creature. There's not one real clone trooper. There's nothing that's real. All of it is fake. In the original trilogy, what was so special about the original trilogy is that they had costumes for actors to wear, and it really immersed you in that Star Wars universe, that world. And in this one, it just feels really, really hard to be immersed in that when everything looks like it's fake, because it is fake, and none of it in some scenes really even comes close to looking real at all. And the last really, really big issue I have with this movie is that it feels like it just drags for 20 years and still never ends. There are times in this movie where I literally just get so bored it's not even funny. Like last night I was rewatching this, and I think I had like almost an hour left on it. It was like 56 minutes or something like that. And I was like, I've watched it before. I gave up on it. I didn't want to watch it anymore just because I was so bored with it. It drags for so long. I just hate it. It's rare that I'll watch a movie and wish that a scene or a sequence of scenes will end because I'm so done with what's going on. And I did that. I did that a lot during this movie. It's bad. I'm gonna go ahead and give Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones a D+. I really, I think this is the worst Star Wars movie in the franchise, and that's including Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Solo, A Star Wars Story. I really think this is just the worst Star Wars film ever, and there's a lot more bad than there is good in this movie. And I want you to know that I really am a huge fan of Star Wars. People who know me will definitely tell you that I am a huge fan of Star Wars. I love it to death. And I'll be the first one there. If somebody's attacking it, I'll be the first one there to defend it, because I really, really do love it. But it's hard for me to like the prequels, just because there's a lot more bad than there is good. There is some good, and that's why I gave it a D+ and not an F. That is going to do it for this review. I thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw here, please subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when new videos are posted. That'll be weekly. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And the review is now concluded.